Battle of the Challenges podcast with Vincent Cloud. And this is the Gauntlet, episode 4 recap with the mission Ice Scream. And this is gross. This is dirty. But we begin the episode with the sexiest team meeting I have ever seen. It's all the road rule ladies lying on the lawn getting sun. But they're not just tanning. They're also having a very urgent meeting just between the ladies. Perhaps they were just like, hey, maybe if we approach this individual in our team as just women together as one, maybe she won't feel as frightened to admit what she's done. This is Road Rules meets The Departed, Martin Scorsese style. Like, they know someone in that group is a fucking rat. They know one of them is a fucking informant, and they gotta smoke it out. They have their prime suspect. They're like, Katie. They name it off. Like, you said you hated us, and you were like, fuck road rules. And here you are hanging out with real world people. And, you know, that was the beginning of the third episode, where Katie was hanging out with real worlders, talking shit about road rulers. So they're bringing this up. They're like, hey, we saw that episode, you fucking bitch. So what's going on? I hear that you might be giving away our secrets. And, this is Rachel, Veronica, and Tina. They're all kind of sitting there. The rest of the women, Ronnie, Sarah, Kara, or Kara, I don't know what it is yet. I haven't paid attention, so sorry. But they're lying there as well. Katie's there. She's clearly wasn't sunning with them because she's fully clothed, basically. And she's there on the hammock with Tina. I feel like Tina, so far, has been eager to bridge peace, to make the peace. At least when it comes to Katie. Because this isn't the first time that they've just kind of sat there and talked about the issue. And so there's Tina and Katie on the hammock. And next to them on the grass, barely covered, is Rachel, Veronica, and then the rest of the team. So Veronica's saying to Katie, she's like, you know what, I've been warned. Whatever Katie knows, they're gonna know. And Katie says in the confessional, people worried about me hanging with real worlders. I'm not stupid. I like them better, but I don't want them to win. Tina is sitting there next to Katie, and she's like, listen, enough of this separation. We need trust in this team. So I think we need to get all this stuff out in the open right now. So Katie says, okay, I agree. I didn't say shit. So Kara, she was just like, okay, well, I'm having a little trouble keeping quiet because I heard you say stuff. Kara? Fuck, I'm so sorry. I'm going to call her Kara for now. Kara for short. Kara, when I'm mad at her, I'm having trouble keeping quiet, she says, because I heard you say stuff. You were talking to Alton and Irulan. Those are the homecoming king and queen of real worlders. Don't talk to them. Of all people that she could have said that to, that might have been the worst. So I kind of understand that this is quite alarming to them. So Kara's just like, no, I heard it. I was wearing a wire. And she said, yeah, you went to Alton and Irulan and you mentioned 3-2-1. That's the voting system, the entire voting system of the road rulers. This was designed by Steve, and they've been using it ever since with interesting results. So Katie says, I just said it was a point system, but I didn't explain it because I don't understand it myself. 3-2-1, that's so broad. That's her defense. She's just like, it's just so broad. Like, who knows what that means? I don't even understand it myself, and I'm in the system. And it's working against me. Veronica, she retorts, but the team were all told we weren't going to let the other team know how we came to a decision. Now that's a very good point, because really, if the real world know that, they could start to try and manipulate the votes. They could probably try and pinpoint someone on the road rules team to just constantly make sure that they do the least. They're out the first. And perhaps then they could manipulate road rules. So it's up to real world to do what they have with this information. And that's the end of the scene, by the way. And it wasn't trashy, like, sure, they were in their swimming suits, some of them, but they weren't just like, fuck you, bitch, you gotta die. It wasn't like any sort of bad girls club sort of shenanigans going on, or even fucking Desperate Housewife. It wasn't like that. This scene was really good, and I enjoyed it. Way to go, girls. Slap on the ass. Way to go, ladies. Ruin it all. But you know what, though? That scene is also brilliant because it's so much better than what's going to follow it. We're going to cut from sexy road rules to damaged real world, where they're all banged up and they're bruised. Everyone's on crutches and wheelchairs. You know, Trishelle has an ice pack on her face. Norman's like, I haven't felt so banged up since I was in ninth grade. To follow all the devastation of the previous episode with the mud bath, then we're going to go into the mission, the day's mission, which for a second starts off like watching girls in the sun, but then slowly transforms into hell. Like a hell. You say hell, but you're like, ugh. So Johnny Mosley's there. He's standing in front of this ice cream shop. And he's saying, hey, welcome to ice cream. Get it? And this is for $10,000. All teams are going to go inside this giant freezer with big piles of ice cream. It's just a good old-fashioned eating contest. And everyone's like, yeah, woo, and shit like that. And it sounds great. But he says, you eat all this stuff, it's worth $10,000. But here's the catch. You will be using no utensils, and your hands will be tied behind your back, and you could only use 4 players at a time at the big giant dish. So they all get started. Real world is 3 less players once again, because previously Trishelle, she was like, you know, I want to play, but they won't let me, so she didn't. Not her fault at all. But yeah, they're playing with 3 less players again, real world, and this just really sucks because this means 3 less mouths, 3 less bellies. Both teams enter the freezers, and we're given a little bit more of that opening scene with the ladies walking in with their swimsuits and what have you. It started off awesome. Like, they're just like, 3, 2, 1, go! And everyone's eating, and it tastes delicious. Everyone's just like, oh, this is all this different, like, mint chocolate chip and caramel and sprinkles, vanilla, different types of ice cream. So going into this, real worlders are just like, holy shit, we gotta come up with some sort of miracle because we're 3 less mouths. But meanwhile, road rulers are saying, okay, this is the plan. We send in 2 guys and 2 girls as the first 4. They take a bite and then rotate. So it starts, right? They're doing good and shit. Norman, he out of somewhere turns into this raging ice cream-aholic eating cycle machine. But good for him, you know. But it's quickly realized that Theo, he's like, you know what? I think we're really losing time in our switch method, because what we're doing is we're taking a bite and then we turn around and then we have to navigate through the rest of our team to get to the back of the line. Very counterintuitive. It's very slow and mechanical-like. But on the real-world team, they're mowing down on all this ice cream. If you pay attention to this video, it's only 20 minutes long, and a lot of this information flies by, and some you may not even notice if you don't look for it. But Tina is heard to call out, okay, just for the guys to eat, just for the guys. And that's exactly what they did. If you pay attention, the girls are hanging back, still rooting and shit, and sure, they've eaten their fair share, but now it's just the dudes munching on their ice cream, a la mode. So now this is where it all just turns kind of gross. Because Kara says, we've got sicknesses. People are ill. We got snot flying out of our noses. Just, it's disgusting. And that made me think back to the beginning of this quote that Theo Von said right before it all started. He was like, oh, I'm looking at this ice cream and, you know, my head's already filled with 2 scoops of snot. I was like, what the fuck does that mean? But now it all makes sense. So Kara says that, like, oh, we have snot flying out and shit like that. And her teammate, Latarian, has a Tusk icicle of caramel snot soft serve just coming out of his nose. It's disgusting. And at this point, when I'm watching it, I'm like, wow, this is gross. Like, I really don't think I could do this. I do tend to get kind of queasy when it comes to, like, germs and when it comes to, like, eating stuff that I don't like. You know, mostly just, like, gross shit. Like, if it's like too fatty, too gristly, and all the men are like, oh, fucking man up, you piece of shit. I'm like, oh, hi, Jesse Ventura. I love your work. On the real world team, however, they're munching, they're going for it. They're really showing up at this point. And they have 3 less mouths and bellies. Rachel B of Real World, she's like, I'm a germophobic, and the thought of ingesting ice cream that's been sucked up the nose and blown out the mouth makes me want to throw up. And she is citing Alton. Like, that happened to him. They showed it in everything. It was absolutely disgusting. I don't know if I'd be able to do that either. Not at all, actually. But, there's $10,000 on the line. Plus, there's pride. Real worlders need this win. There's a lot more shots of just people selling their dignity. These images will haunt your brain. I mean, you don't want to be eating when you're watching this, basically. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Oh, there's many great moments in this whole thing. Norman has ice cream, just like a big droop of string of ice cream out of his mouth, and Theo catches it with his mouth. Sensual. It's very, very two girls, one cup. And then this is also part of the whole real world. This is what's making them really good at this point. Nathan he cleverly wipes his head and face in ice cream, thereby clinging a lot more ice cream to his forehead and on his hat, on his face, basically, more than any mouthful could have grabbed. That was a really brilliant move, and for some reason, I think Johnny Mosley was like, "Oh my God, Nathan, you're a beast, man." But no, man, Nathan was finding a loophole. Very J-E-K, I must say. But you know what? All for naught. Once again, Road Rules wins. Also, their third mission in a row. Now they have $30,000 in their team bank account. Damn. So now it's all over. And Theo Von's like, it's the sickest thing I've ever done. It was like disappearing from the world that I know into this dark, cold, mint chocolate world. And it seemed very bizarre. Like, after a while, it turned, the mission turned on you so quickly. Went from sweet to gloppy, snotty gloop. So now everyone's throwing up. Like, there's a lot of people throwing up in the buckets, They're like, yeah, we won, but holy crap, this is gross. Tina throws up in a bucket, and she's like, oh, you could taste every flavor. And every flavor is also kind of like served like a twisty cone. It comes out twisted, both chocolate and vanilla, but this time chocolate and snot. Now it's deliberation time. We're going to start off with the real world. And Nathan, he's got the belt, the wrestling belt. Well, basically, it's the microphone of the real world. It's Miz's fucking belt, wrestling belt. So anyways, Nathan has it, and he says, all right, well, you know what? I'll start. Everybody ate their ass off, and I'm not sure what my vote is, but I would not feel comfortable sending in another guy. I look around. Norman's got ice cream coming out of his eyes. Alton's got ice cream coming out of his eyes. Miz, Theo, myself. I didn't see that from the rest of you. Now, at first I was like, oh, he's just saying the girls are the ones that suck. No, he left out one guy, and that was Matt. And if you recall the very first episode, Nathan voted for Matt then because Matt's beliefs and shit. No, he was just like, I feel like I don't want anyone to choose me over beliefs. And Nathan's like, oh, well, the very thought of that we would makes me want to vote you or something like that. I don't remember how it went, but so again, Nathan's just kind of cold. As cold as the freezer, as cold as the mission itself, and as ugly. He was just like, no, fuck Matt. Even though he was like the last guy in the previous episode in the mud bath. So yeah, he still doesn't really care for Matt. I mean, he just didn't mention him, I suppose. I'm looking too into it. So Alton, he gets the belt. He's like, you know what? I agree with what Nathan said. I don't know if I'd want to send a guy either. And Coral says, all right, well, girls are getting picked on. We're getting picked on then. It feels like we send another girl home, then it's all boys, and I don't feel like that's fair at all. And Yerlon says, these teams are co-ed for a reason. And at some point, fewer girls are going to pull the team down. You need us around. And Coral's like, you know what? I could have swore that we have a check for $10,000, our only check for the real world, on the wall right now. And I could have sworn it was Elka that got it for us. But then it's also kind of like dampened by this. She says to the confessional, I just don't think that just because I have two nipples, I should automatically go into the Gauntlet. Well, first of all, many might say Coral men have two nipples as well. I mean, I knew what she said, so I let it go. But yeah, I'm sure there was some YouTube comments about that, which was great because, it's just like, she's a fast talker, and perhaps she was just a little too fast for herself. But we get what she was trying to say. So now Coral's like, Matt, you've said nothing. Like, you haven't said anything. What do you think? So she picks on Matt, just like Nathan. I don't think Coral really cares for Matt. And Matt says, all right, well, I guess I'm going to stick my neck out here. And if we agree to put in a girl, I think Elka has the injured knee and she should go. Oh my God, Elka's pissed. She's like, what? I'm the one that got you that money. Didn't you hear, Coral? Or was this edited differently? Non-chronologically? Huh? But she's pissed off. She, a lot of things are running through her mind right now besides the editing. But now she's like, okay, yeah, I have an injured knee, but like, what the fuck? Like, how dare you? And I don't think Elka cared for Matt to begin with. So this is definitely hurting that relationship that he has with her. But, okay, so then Rachel B., who I tried to think of how to describe her, but I think she used to be heavier and she had like white, blondish, platinum hair or something like that. I don't know. And she lost a lot of weight. She's pretty skinny, but like in shape. And now she has kind of shortish, reddish hair. Yeah. And that's Rachel B for you, the germophobic. So she's saying, you know what? I understand Coral saying like, getting slightly picked on, but I also understand that the Road Rule team has 7 guys, and Theo, he's like, strong. She's like, yeah, strong guys. And Theo says, out of losing David, Montana, and Tanya, I feel David was the worst loss, and if we lose another guy, I'm sure we're going to feel the same way. So Coral says, all right, so say we do send in a girl this time, let's just not make it a thing. So, again, Nathan, I've mentioned him before, where he was like, hey, I was on an episode of Guiding Light. I'm an actor. So I was like, watch out for this guy. I wonder how many times he's going to poke his nose into the camera or whatever. But I got to say, I kind of admire him a little bit, or at least he's definitely gotten my attention as I've been watching this season. So he says, Rachel, how do you feel right now? Like, you seem to be the most limber girl here. I feel like you're our strongest woman right now. And he's just kind of like throwing heaps and heaps of like all this like, oh, you're the best. He's basically blowing smoke up her ass, just like The Miz. But he's doing it right now. Instead of Montana, they're just like, oh, who's the next redhead? Rachel? Yes, her. Because they don't have souls. I actually don't believe that. I know a lot of redheads, and I like almost all of them, so never understood it. So anyways, Nathan is just saying, hey, you're great. You're limber. You're the strongest woman I know right now. Like, what are you doing? What's up, girl? And she's saying, well, and then the fucking belt is tossed at her, like and it might as well be like the black spot of death, that the pirates get, that it's a fucking calling card for death. I don't think that's how a calling card works, but yeah, it's the black spot of death. They just handed it to her. They're like, yeah, fucking hang yourself with it. So while she has the belt, she's just like, oh my God, I just caught it. Heavy belt. And Alton says, what do you think about going to the Gauntlet, Rachel? And Rachel says, I mean, I'll go if y'all want me to go. Miz's head pops up. He's been quiet the whole time, the so-called leader. And he's like, huh? What? Are you crazy? Like, did she just volunteer herself? And before anything else could be said, Nathan's like, well, if you go, I think you would win. Because you said that you would go. And it's too late. He, rips open his shirt. I was wearing a wire, too. I'm as paranoid as the Road Ruler women. You got me? But you are going in. You said that you would. And so Rachel's like, all right, you guys know that I'm not raw, that type of girl where I'm like, oh, I'm going to go in and I'm going to win. But I think if I were to go in, I'll do it. I'm fine with it. I'm sure. She buckled under the weight, under the pressure immediately. But, I mean, who was she to doubt herself, really? I feel like she was telling the truth, but it was just kind of like, spotlight, Mike, say your thing right now. She's like, ah. But, had she a little bit more time, perhaps she would have been a lot more poised and said something a little bit more cooler, a little bit more encourageable, a little bit more inspiring, I suppose, because now the real worlders, they all gather around her and they go like, real world. And now Rachel, she's in her confessional. She says, nobody wants to feel like they're being sacrificed by their team, but, you know, real worlders, they need someone to step up, and it's gonna be me. So it really was just kind of heaved onto her. Nathan, he kind of played an aggressive game, and I'm wondering if anyone else is catching up on that, if it's rubbing people the wrong way. I mean, it certainly doesn't seem to be affecting Coral and Elka too much. I think they're mostly just focused on Matt for their own petty issues. So let's cut to the road rules deliberation. And here they are using their coveted voting system of 1, 2, 3, or 3, 2, 1, where they vote 3 to the person they want the most going into the gauntlet, 2 to the person where they're like, yeah, maybe, I don't know if it can't be that number 3, it could be you. And 1 is just kind of like a little slap on the wrist or something. So anyways, now all the votes are getting read off. Darrell's reading these things. He's like, Tina 2, Abe 3, like real loud and shit. So he just feels it and makes Abe jump. He's like, ah. And Darrell, he's saying, I had Abe for 3, just to give him a little wake-up call for all his disqualifications. When it comes to the end, we can't have any of those little foul-up mistakes over no $150,000 because I'm going to be hot. It's like, oh, shit. Like, yeah. You know, because this Darrell, he's a fucking boxer. He has, like, gloves. I think they're golden gloves. I don't know. I just like how fucking Darrell carries himself in this game, where it's just very serious. It's not flashy at all. But when you tell him, like, hey, how do you feel about Abe's disqualification? He's like, oh, that motherfucker. I want his ass. Yeah, Darrell just turns into Ali. He's like, I want Joe Frazier. Anyways, the top 3 are then listed off. Tina with 14 points. She's in the top 3, and she's like, holy shit. Like, I don't think I mind going in. I just don't think I'll like the intensity of proving myself to my team. I kind of understand what she said right there. She's like, you know what, going in, it's like going in for your team, but why am I going, like, why am I voted? Why would I be going in? What did I do wrong? So it is kind of a mystery. Next, with 16 points, 16 votes, is Abram. He got away once again. He has been DQ'd twice, as Darrell pointed out, and still nothing. Instead, it's Katie again with 23 points. I think she just dug her own grave with, like, telling the other team the secrets. And then her blowout before that. And then she was out first in episode 3. So I just feel like there was no way she could have avoided it. It was already done. The damage has been done. Just like how episode 2 Masquerade, it barely functioned as anyone's vote, and they had to just go back to 1 again for some of the votes. I feel like this ice cream thing did the same thing, because I feel like all the girls were just like, okay, well, we ate, but eventually we said, hey, all the guys eat. So now everyone's focusing on episode 1 and episode 3. Episode 3, Katie was out first for her team. And then again with the whole, like, she was a informant, she was a rat on the team. And not too much. I mean, she says, hey, I just said 3, 2, 1. I didn't know it was that important or whatever, but you still ran it out. You still gave information. And you still named names. Well, actually, she named numbers. Now we are at the Gauntlet of the night, or day. These are done in the day, but I don't mind them. They're still fun. I actually like that these eliminations are done in the day. At least for this season, I feel like it matches totally. It's fun. It's fine. Now it's between Rachel B. of Real World versus Road Rule Katie. They roll the dice. It's Hangman. You have to jump to the pool, swim to the trapeze bar hanging over the water, grab a hold of that, and then it's going to slowly start to raise, and you're going to have to hold on and outlast the other person. It starts. They jump into the pool. They swim to the trapeze bar. It begins to lift. Katie, she's a shorter girl. You know, she's feisty, of course, because most short girls will have to be feisty sometimes. Most of them. Versus the opposite. Rachel B is recently lost weight, tall, and she seems to be in shape. And she's got a bit of an attitude, just like Katie's not going to win this time. No. I mean, this this is ridiculous. This is like a puzzle to me, you know? She just kind of got a slight cocky, like, yeah, I did lose weight, and now I'm just going to talk shit. It's interesting when it starts off, they grab onto the trapeze bar, and Rachel is overhand. Meanwhile, Katie is underhand, which is very interesting. I do pull-ups, but I never stop and think, like, what is the most effective way to do this pull-up? I just kind of do them for fun. I mean, I only do like 4, and they're like in the doorway. Well, they're 5 now. It's, you know, progress throughout the weeks. So I don't remember which is the most effective thing, but it's raising up, and the mechanics, the production, it kind of falls. The trapeze bars just kind of bumps and falls just a slight centimeter of a bit, and Rachel's surprise face is priceless. It's awesome. She's like, oh my god, oh yeah, lose all the weight you want, Rachel B, but you're still a goofy woman. So now they're fully raised and they're hanging there, and Katie, she starts to struggle, and Katie's looking at the camera. She's like, you know, the pole's already slippery and my hands are already wet. And Katie falls. I kind of hope that she wouldn't try and say, like, oh, well, this is why I lost. You know, it's kind of, I don't like it when challengers say, oh, well, there was sand in my eye or something like that. And she falls and she fails. She's actually the first road ruler to be eliminated. That makes Rachel B. Real Worlder's very first champion of the elimination. This is awesome. It's a great morale boost. Rachel Robinson of Road Rulers is looking on, and she's like, you know what? It's better that Katie goes and stays than to give away all our secrets. We need people who want to be on this team, and I get that too. I get that as well. It's very cold, but she's just like, hey, it is what it is. And that's what kind of makes Rachel Robinson pretty cool. So now the rest of the Road Rulers are kind of eating there, and at this table back at the house, Theo Vaughn, Veronica, and Adam L., Katie's best friend, they're at this table reassuring Abe that, hey, we don't have to worry anymore. Like, I feel like we're all a team right now. And it's funny because these Road Rulers of power are kind of reassuring Abe his position in the team, saying, hey, you know, those votes, whatever. But it's interesting because Adam L. is there, and he's eating this apple so casually. And he's just saying, like, listen, Katie was my best friend, but guess what? We're streamlined now. And I had my suspicions about his relationship with Katie, and because she was clearly on the outs with that team, and he was so in. Now that Katie, his best friend, is gone, he's just, like, casually eating this apple. He's like, listen, hey, you're part of the family. There's no sense of, like, Adam L. has lost his friend whatsoever. And it's great, and it's cold. And Rachel Robinson says, you know what? I feel like we're more united. And there's no longer any mistrust amongst the team. And I don't feel like we have anyone on this team that we have to worry about at all. So then you cut to out at a bar where the real world are out now celebrating. And they're having a good time. But when this is supposed to be like a great night for the team, no. Coral and Elka are at the bar just by themselves, just talking about and plotting against Matt. And Matt, who, by the way, is dancing in front of like I think it just says good. It's like a neon light that just says good, and he's dancing there. And it's so hilarious because he is good. He is the Christian guy. He is the guy who's like, any winnings I get is going to build a mission somewhere in need. But he's really dialed that down since episode 1. But I feel like it doesn't matter with these two, these Coral and Elkas. They're just like, you know, he said my name. To hell with him. He is out of here. And Coral's like, yeah, he is out of here. Yeah, that was the episode. Like this if you liked it. Subscribe so you can follow along with me as I cover the rest of this season. You could leave comments on the channel on YouTube for the Gauntlet episodes, and I'll try and read them out on a podcast perhaps. It's by Phillies, Philies 3435. He has those on YouTube. Check them out. Leave a comment if you want. Battle of the Challengers podcast.